In 2022, an average of 17,000 people a week entered into homelessness systems across the country for the first time. And in 2023, total homelessness increased by 12%. Now, those that work on the front lines for homeless say expected legislation in several states could weaken efforts to help people in our communities. Joining us to explain are Ann Oliva, CEO of the National Alliance to End Homelessness, and Donald Whitehead, Executive Director of the National Coalition for the Homeless. So Ann, let's start with you. What are some of the factors driving this crisis in the United States?
Well, first, thank you so much for having us and for talking about this really important topic. I think we can all agree that when people have safe and stable places to live, their communities are stronger. When everybody in a community is housed, that community is stronger. And so we should all be really concerned about those numbers that you just cited. In the homeless services field, we are disappointed in those numbers, but we're not particularly surprised because we've been tracking three major factors that contributed to that increase that you mentioned. The first is the affordable housing crisis. I know you all are feeling it in Florida. We've heard lots of stories out of your state about that. Rents have skyrocketed nationwide. There aren't enough units that are affordable to the people who need them, and that means people are paying more and more of their income towards rent, making them susceptible to homelessness and eviction. The second thing is that the social safety net is not keeping up with the need. So as you noted, more people are becoming homeless for the first time, and they're falling through the cracks of our social safety net. And as those people come into the homeless services system, the system just doesn't have the capacity to serve them. And the third thing that we've been tracking is the end of the pandemic era protections, like the eviction moratorium and like rental assistance that really helped keep people stable during the pandemic. Those ended just as we saw those rents skyrocket nationwide.
Donald, what do the homeless numbers in the state of Florida look like?
Thank you, and a very good question. So Florida has the third highest population in the country, 30,756 total homeless individuals in Florida. That represents an 18.5% increase, which of course is higher than the national average. And also, just to underscore Ann's point about the lack of affordable housing being a significant factor, 443,892 units for low-income housing individuals there was a lack of that many units in Florida. And as you know, as Ann said, communities are safer. Communities are stronger when there is enough affordable housing for everybody in the community.
Wow, those numbers are pretty staggering. So, and some states are trying to outlaw being homeless. Why do you say that that's the wrong approach?
Well, we actually know that it's the wrong approach because we know that homelessness is solvable, and it's solvable with the combination of safe, affordable housing and the services that people need to maintain that housing. And we know that because, for example, we cut veteran homelessness in this country in half over just a few years using that approach. So we know that that approach works. We also know that what doesn't work is criminalizing people for simply existing in public spaces when they literally have nowhere else to go. And let me give you a couple of examples. Ticketing, fining, or arresting somebody who doesn't actually have enough money for rent or food and other basic necessities doesn't end their homelessness. It just moves them to another location, and it burdens law enforcement. And then we also know that these practices, these criminalization practices, really hurt people who are experiencing homelessness and the service providers who serve them. For example, when you have an arrest on your record, even if it's for public camping, it makes it harder to get an apartment, it makes it harder to get a job. A lot of times identification and other things get thrown away in encampment closures. And service providers have a harder time finding people that they're serving when they're pushed further and further out of town.
And Donald, thank you so very much for joining us this morning. It was a very great talk and discussion. We really appreciate your time. And folks, you know you can always head to our website or the FCM Plus app to check out this interview again.